How'd you get that fucking number?
Wasn't hard.
Yeah?
Neither is this.
Ask the lady down the street. When it had the fire, same thing could happen to you.
The Equalizer movies have been a hit for Denzel Washington, with the first film earning $192.3 million worldwide on a $55 million budget, equal $1.1 million on a $70 million budget. All three films were well received by fans and turned a profit, raising questions about a fourth installment. The Equalizer franchise is a multimedia spy thriller, originally co-created by Michael Sloan and Richard Lindheim. It began as a CBS TV series with Edward Woodward and has since expanded to a trilogy of films starring Denzel, a 2021 CBS reboot with Queen Latifah as Robin McCall, and a series of novels written by Michael Sloan. The franchise follows a retired intelligence agent who uses their skills to help those in danger while sometimes confronting unresolved issues from their covert past. This past was explored in The Equalizer 3. The film opens with McCall, a former DIA officer, recovering from a serious wound after taking down a Sicilian mob base. He is taken in by the people of Altamonte, a seaside village where he becomes part of the community. However, the village is under threat from the Mafia outfit known as the Camorra. When the violence escalates, McCall is forced to retaliate. Meanwhile, a subplot involves McCall aiding CIA agent Emma Collins, played by Dakota Fanning, providing her information on designer drugs linked to the mob. This leads to the discovery that the Camorra is connected with terrorists. After McCall kills the Mafia boss Vincent's brother, the stage is set for a final showdown between McCall and Vincent. In the end, McCall eliminates Vincent and his men, while Collins gets a promotion for her work. McCall, having found peace, chooses to remain in the village, marking what appears to be the final chapter for Washington's take on the character. However, the emphasis on his take leaves the door open for potential future reinterpretations or expansions of the Equalizer story. And no, Robert McCall does not die in The Equalizer 3. While the film puts him in danger, particularly early on when he's shot in the back after the opening sequence, he survives. McCall's condition is critical, but he stabilizes after being treated by a local in the village of Altamonte. Despite the initial concern for his health, the movie ultimately keeps him alive, allowing for a more peaceful conclusion for the character. Instead of killing off McCall, the film gives him a happy ending, leaving the possibility open for a future sequel. But it does seem that Robert McCall really has settled down by the end of Equalizer 3. The film emphasizes the idea that people eventually find where they belong, and McCall appears to have found peace in the seaside village of Altamonte. Throughout the movie, McCall is portrayed as darker and more brutal, still dealing with the emotional weight of Susan's death and his betrayal by former colleagues. His approach to justice becomes more violent, as he seems focused on making his enemies suffer. However, the kindness of the villagers helps McCall rediscover his humanity. After defeating Mafia leader Vincent, he returns to the village, where he's seen happily taking part in a local celebration. Having handed his black book to CIA agent Emma Collins, it seems McCall has truly retired from his life as a vigilante. The ending suggests no further sequels, making it a fitting and peaceful conclusion to his journey. Also, a lot of you are confused about the opening scene. McCall's decision to carry out the ruthless opening massacre in The Equalizer 3 is driven by his deep sense of justice, a hallmark of his character. The scene plays out like a slasher film, with McCall systematically taking out the members of a Sicilian mob in their vineyard. His actions seem shockingly brutal, even for him, and the reason behind the massacre isn't immediately clear. It's only later that McCall reveals to CIA agent Emma Collins that the mobsters were involved in cybercrime, specifically stealing the pension of a retired man from Boston, Greg Dyer. McCall had once given Dyer a lift ride, a callback to his side gig from The Equalizer 2, and was moved by his plight. The mob had stolen $360,000, and McCall traveled to Italy with the sole purpose of retrieving the money and returning it to Dyer. Collins initially struggles to understand why McCall would risk his life for a stranger, but after witnessing the joy the returned pension brings to Dyer and his wife, she finally gets it. McCall's extreme measures in the opening were all part of his personal mission to right a wrong, showcasing the depth of his commitment to justice, no matter how small the beneficiary or how dangerous the task. Now, let's switch to the Camorra motives. In the Equalizer 3, the Camorra's motives are straightforward but brutal. Led by Vincent, the Mafia outfit thrives on extorting protection money from the local businesses in Altamonte, a quiet seaside village. However, Vincent's ambitions go beyond mere extortion. He envisions transforming the village into a hub for luxury resorts and casinos, which would require forcibly removing the current residents. This ruthless vision sets up the conflict between Vincent's gang and McCall, who has been embraced by the village community. The locals' kindness contrasts sharply with the Camorra's cartoonishly evil actions, such as hanging an elderly man from a window and severing a subordinate's hand. McCall, who feels a sense of belonging and duty to protect these people, makes it clear that Vincent's plans to destroy their way of life will not go unchallenged. His fierce defense of the village becomes the driving force behind his final confrontation with the Camorra. Another surprising revelation comes when McCall's connection to Agent Collins is explained. Throughout the movie, McCall aids her without ever explaining why he reached out to her specifically. The mystery is solved in the final scenes when Collins discovers that McCall has left her his black book, accompanied by a note saying her mother would be proud. This reveals that Collins is the daughter of McCall's old friend Susan Plummer, who was killed in the Equalizer 2. By mentoring Collins, McCall is helping guide her career, much like her mother. This gesture also signifies McCall's readiness to step away from his vigilante life, signaling his retirement. Director Antoine Fuqua has shared his thoughts on the Equalizer 3's ending and Robert McCall's fate, suggesting that this may be the final chapter for both him and Denzel Washington in the franchise. While Washington has said that the Equalizer 4 could happen, it would likely proceed without him. However, Fuqua has expressed that his involvement in a fourth film would hinge on Washington's return as McCall. Fuqua has indicated that if Washington steps away from the role, he too would leave the franchise. This mutual dependency between the director and the actor makes a fourth film unlikely at this stage. While both are open to future projects, the current sentiment points to the Equalizer 3 serving as a fitting conclusion to Washington's portrayal of McCall, with both Fuqua and Washington seemingly ready to move on from the series. While the future of the Equalizer 4 remains uncertain, there is still potential for a sequel. Denzel's Robert McCall ends the Equalizer 3 on a note of inner peace, but the storyline leaves room for more adventures. Fuqua previously considered the idea of a digitally de-aged McCall, or even featuring Washington's son John David Washington in the role. However, these concepts seem unlikely to materialize unless Fuqua's perspective shifts. If Washington and Fuqua were to collaborate again, the narrative could easily continue, focusing on McCall taking on another mission that highlights his reluctance to stay retired. Now that Emma Collins has been established as an ally, she could seek McCall's unique skills for a challenging operation. However, this approach could risk echoing the themes of the Equalizer 3, where McCall also faced the decision of retiring. Ultimately, while there are story possibilities, the involvement of both Washington and Fuqua will be crucial in determining whether the Equalizer 4 becomes a reality. Well, that's a wrap on our discussion about the Equalizer 4. What are your thoughts on the potential for a fourth installment? Would you like to see Washington reprise his role, or are you open to a new direction for the character? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more updates and insights on your favorite films. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next video.